I'd like to welcome everybody to the Core 2 course. My name is Michael Levy. I am a co-director of the PASS program, and I'll be teaching the Core 2 course. We're going to start off with management accounting. We're going to have 4 classes on management accounting, and this is the first of the management accounting classes. We'll also be covering off other competencies that are relevant to the Core 2 exam. For tonight, before we get into the specific subjects, I'd like just to do a very brief introduction to the Core 2 exam. What you see in front of you is the blueprint for both Core 1 and Core 2. If you're interested in getting your own copy, you can easily get it by just going to the CPA Canada website. But you have the copy here right in front of you, and I'd just like to review with you just so you know what the exam covers, and that will put you in a much better position when it comes time to study. So let's just go over the highlights of what the Core 2 exam is like, what the Core 2 exam covers. The Core 2 exam, and this will be true of Core 1 also, some of you may be aware of this, is 75% objective format. Objective format would be primarily multiple choice or other short form type answers. Only 25% of the exam is a case. So the case portion of Core 1 and Core 2 is really the minority of the exam. It's only a very small part of the exam. This is primarily an objective format exam, whether you're dealing with Core 1 or Core 2. Now, when it comes to the total length of the exam, both Core 1 and Core 2 are 4 hours long. Candidates are responsible for managing their time allocation between the objective format portion and the case portion. What they're going to do is they're going to give you the complete exam when you walk in. You will be advised to spend 60 minutes on the case and 3 hours on the objective format portion of the exam. There's nothing to prevent you from doing a different time allocation. If you wanted to, in theory, you could spend 2 hours on the case and leave over only 2 hours for the objective format. I strongly advise you not to do that. I strongly advise you to stick to the time allocation that is suggested. Spend 60 minutes on the case and leave the remaining time for the objective format questions. You'll need that time. So stick to the suggested time allocation, which is 60 minutes for the case and 3 hours for the remainder of the exam, even though there's nothing to force you to do so. Now, in terms of the makeup of the exam, let's go over what you're going to be tested on this exam. But before I do, I didn't want to forget to mention something that's rather important. In the course that we're going to be doing together, you're going to have a huge amount of opportunity to write practice questions. But if you'd like to get additional practice, particularly in the area of objective format questions, which is the bulk of the exam, I can provide you with old CMA questions. CMA, basically there no longer is a CMA exam. As you know, the CMAs and CGAs and CAs all merged to become CPAs. But I do have old sample CMA exams with objective format questions, and I've been told that they're quite reflective of the objective format questions on the Core 2 exam. So if you'd like these questions, please email me. My email is on the PASS website, and I will send you these exams. I'm not allowed to post these exams on my website, but I am allowed to provide them to you if you email me. So you may want to email me at some point, and I will send you these old CMA questions. And I think you'll find them very useful for study purposes, even though I'll be providing you with a lot of questions. It's all, as the more you write, the better. And these old CMA questions are quite reflective from what I understand. Okay, now what I'd like to do is just talk very briefly about what is covered on the exam subject-wise. For the objective format portion of the exam, which is the bulk of the exam for Core 2, the subjects that they're going to test are financial reporting, strategy and governance, management accounting, and finance. Now, as you can see, the bulk of the exam in terms of topic is management accounting. The main emphasis of Core 1 is financial accounting. The main emphasis of Core 2 is management accounting. That is why management accounting will comprise 50 to 70% of the objective format portion of the exam. The second biggest topic that will be tested is strategy and governance, which will be anywhere from 10 to 30%. And then the third most important subject is finance, which is 15 to 20%. There is a possibility that financial reporting could come up, but it's only 0 to 10%. I would not spend very much time at all on financial reporting in preparing for this exam. Number one, it may not come up at all, and even if it does, it'll be in a very minor way. They have a huge opportunity to test you on financial reporting on Core 1. So that is the makeup of the objective format portion of the exam, which is, as we said earlier, 75% of the total exam. Now, another thing I'd like to talk about is the case portion of the exam. We said a moment ago that the case is 1 hour long, and what are they going to assess in the Core 2 cases? Core 2 cases will assess competencies mainly in management accounting. Okay, so the main emphasis of that 1 hour case on your exam will be management accounting, but it will integrate 1 or 2 other competency areas. So very, very likely, strategy and governance will also be tested on the Core 2 case. And then they might test a third area. If they test a third area, the most likely area would be finance. But again, the majority of the exam is management accounting. So as you can see, big focus of Core 2 is management accounting. That's why it comprises the biggest portion of the course. Now, coming back to reference material. For both Core 1 and Core 2, our emphasis tonight and over the remaining classes will be Core 2, but for both Core 1 and Core 2, you will have access to restricted resource material through Secure Exam, so this will be electronically. You'll have access electronically to a CPA handbook, the Income Tax Act. You'll also, at the back of your exam, you will also have a table with common ratios and the tax shield formula and various tax information. You'll get an idea of the type of information that will be provided to you at the back of your exam when you look at the practice exams PASS has provided. In the practice exams that PASS provides to you, you can get a pretty good feeling for what kind of information is provided in the table at the back of the exam. Now, up to what date would they be able to test things? This part over here is not terribly relevant to Core 2. It's more relevant to Core 1, where you're dealing with things like financial accounting in a meaningful way and assurance. Basically, when it comes to the handbook, they typically work as follows. The standards and regulations that are testable are those in effect at December 31st of the prior year. So if somebody's writing their exam in September of 2017, what they're saying is that the standards and regulations that are testable are those that will be in effect at December 31st of 2016. But then it goes on to say, note that the cutoff for inclusion in Secure Exam is November 30th. Therefore, any new handbook release and tax legislation introduced between December 31st and between December 1st and December 31st are not testable. So at the end of the day, basically, they can test you on any standard up until November 30th of 2016. Again, this is not tremendously relevant for Core 2 because there's very little financial accounting, if any, on Core 2. It's only 0 to 10%. But if financial accounting were to come up, they could not, for example, test you on standards that were released, for example, in 2017. The cutoff would be the end of 2016. Any questions, guys? Any questions on the nature of the exam before we start tonight's session? Everybody's clear? Okay, so if everybody's clear, that's it for the introduction.